Jack Roberts sat alone in his small apartment, staring out the window at the darkened city skyline. The streets below were eerily quiet, a sharp contrast to the chaos that had gripped the world just days ago. News reports blared from the television in the corner of the room, but Jack barely paid attention. He already knew what they were saying. Humanity was on the brink of destruction, and there was nothing anyone could do to stop it. The Galactic Council, a coalition of advanced alien species from across the stars, had made their decision. Earth, with all its flaws and failures, was deemed too dangerous to exist as an independent planet. Decades of environmental destruction, endless wars, and reckless behavior had finally caught up with humanity. The Council had voted unanimously. Every single species agreed that Earth needed to be brought under control. Subjugation was the only option. Jack sighed and leaned back in his chair, running a hand through his graying hair. He had once been a military strategist, one of the best in the world. But after years of watching his plans lead to bloodshed, he walked away from it all. Now, at 47 years old, he found himself wishing he hadn't given up so easily. Maybe if he had stayed, things would have turned out differently. But deep down, he knew it wouldn't have mattered. No amount of strategy could prepare humanity for what was coming. His wife, Laura Bennett, wasn't home. She spent most of her time these days at a top-secret research facility outside the city. Scientists and engineers from around the globe were working around the clock, trying to find some way, any way, to communicate with the aliens. Some believed diplomacy might still be possible, though few held on to that hope. Jack admired Laura's determination, but he couldn't share her optimism. In his mind, the Council had already made up its mind. There would be no negotiations, no second chances. As the hours ticked by, Jack thought about the life he and Laura had built together. They weren't rich or famous, but they had been happy. Simple joys, a quiet dinner, a walk in the park, even arguing over whose turn it was to do the dishes, had filled their days. Now those moments felt like distant memories. Everything seemed fragile, as if it could shatter at any moment. Suddenly, the sound of an explosion echoed in the distance. Jack jumped to his feet and rushed to the window. A fiery plume of smoke rose into the night sky, lighting up the horizon. It was happening. The invasion had begun. Panic surged through him, but he forced himself to stay calm. He grabbed his phone and dialed Laura's number. After several agonizing rings, she answered. Her voice was tense but steady. "Jack, are you okay?" "I'm fine," he replied quickly. "But we need to meet. I don't know how much time we have." Laura hesitated before responding. "There's something you need to see. Get here as fast as you can." Before Jack could ask what she meant, the line went dead. He grabbed his coat and headed for the door. Outside, people were running in every direction, screaming and shouting. The once peaceful city was now a scene of utter chaos. Alien ships hovered overhead, their sleek designs casting eerie shadows on the ground below. Jack moved quickly, weaving through the crowds as explosions continued to rock the city. His heart pounded in his chest, but he pushed forward. Whatever Laura wanted to show him, he knew it was important. And right now, importance was a luxury humanity couldn't afford to ignore. The streets were a nightmare. Fires burned in every direction, and the air was thick with smoke and the sound of distant screams. Jack Roberts moved as fast as he could, dodging debris and panicked crowds. The alien ships loomed above, their massive forms casting long shadows over the ruined city. Every few minutes, another explosion would shake the ground, sending shockwaves through the chaos. Jack's mind raced. He didn't know how much time he had before the invaders reached this part of the city, but he knew it wouldn't be long. As he ran, he couldn't help but think about how unprepared humanity was for this. The aliens' technology was far beyond anything Earth had ever seen. Their weapons were precise, devastating, and seemingly unstoppable. Human forces fought back with everything they had. Tanks, missiles, even fighter jets. but it was like throwing stones at a storm. Nothing worked. The invaders advanced without hesitation, crushing resistance with ease. Finally, after what felt like hours, Jack reached the research facility where Laura was working. The building was surrounded by barricades and armed guards, though Jack doubted they would hold up against an alien attack. He showed his ID to the soldiers at the gate and was allowed inside. The interior of the facility was eerily calm compared to the madness outside. Scientists and engineers moved quickly between rooms, their faces tense but focused. It was clear they were racing against time. Laura met him in the main lab. Her hair was tied back, and her face was streaked with dirt, but her eyes were sharp and determined. "You made it," she said, pulling him into a quick hug. "Come on, there's something you need to see." She led him to a large monitor displaying footage from one of the alien ships. On the screen, a group of scientists were analyzing data streams. Emily Parker, a young engineer Jack recognized from previous meetings, stood nearby, pointing at a series of graphs. "We've been studying their energy signatures," Laura explained. Emily noticed something unusual, a frequency emitted by their ships that seems to interfere with their weapon systems. Jack frowned. "Interfere how?" "It disrupts their targeting mechanisms," Emily chimed in. "If we can amplify that frequency and broadcast it on a larger scale, we might be able to disable their weapons. At least temporarily." Jack stared at the screen, trying to process what he was hearing. It wasn't much, but it was something. For the first time since the invasion began, he felt a flicker of hope. "How long will it take to test this?" he asked. "Too long," Laura admitted. "We don't have the equipment we need here. But Ryan, Emily's brother, he's a pilot. He thinks he can get close enough to one of their ships to gather more data." Jack turned to Emily, who nodded. "Ryan's already volunteered," she said. "He'll do whatever it takes." Before Jack could respond, the lights in the lab flickered, and the ground shook violently. An alarm blared overhead, and someone shouted, "They're here." Everyone scrambled to secure the facility. Jack followed Laura to a reinforced door leading to the underground levels. As they descended, Jack glanced back at Emily, who was frantically typing commands into a computer. "Be careful," he told her. "You too," she replied without looking up. Once they were safely below ground, Laura turned to Jack. "We can't give up," she said firmly. "Not now. If this frequency works, it could change everything." Jack nodded, though doubt still lingered in his mind. Even if they managed to disable some of the alien weapons, it wouldn't stop the invasion. Humanity was outnumbered, outgunned, and running out of time. But as he looked at Laura's determined face, he realized something important. Giving up wasn't an option, not yet. Not while there was still a chance, no matter how small. Above them, the sounds of battle grew louder. The aliens had arrived. Deep beneath the surface, in the dimly lit corridors of the underground facility, Jack Roberts tried to focus. The distant rumble of explosions and the occasional tremor reminded him that the battle above was far from over. Laura stood nearby, talking urgently with a group of engineers who were sketching out plans on a whiteboard. Everyone was tense, their movements quick and deliberate. Time was slipping away, and they all knew it. Jack leaned against a wall, his mind racing. He wasn't a scientist or an engineer. He didn't know the first thing about frequencies or alien technology. But he understood people. He had spent years studying how groups worked together or fell apart. And right now, humanity needed more than just weapons or clever tactics. It needed hope and leadership. If there was any chance of survival, someone had to step up and unite what was left of the resistance. "Jack," Laura called, snapping him out of his thoughts. "We need your help." He walked over to where she stood, joining the small circle of scientists. One of them, a wiry man named Daniel, pointed to a map of the city spread out on the table. "We've identified pockets of survivors," he explained. "They're scattered, but some are fighting back. If we can coordinate with them, Maybe we can slow the invaders down long enough to test Emily's theory. Jack studied the map. Red markers dotted the grid, each one representing a group of fighters. Some were soldiers, others civilians armed with whatever they could find. They were outnumbered and outmatched. But they weren't giving up. Not yet. How do we reach them? Jack asked. We have radios, Laura said. But communication is spotty at best. We'll need someone to go out there, talk to them in person. Jack didn't hesitate. I'll do it. Laura frowned. It's dangerous. You'll be exposed. So is staying here, Jack replied. If this frequency works, we'll need every advantage we can get. I can rally these groups, bring them together. After a moment, Laura nodded reluctantly. Be careful. Jack grabbed a backpack stocked with supplies and a radio, then headed for the stairs leading back to the surface. As he climbed, he braced himself for what waited above. When he emerged into the daylight, the scene was even worse than before. The streets were littered with rubble, and the air smelled of smoke and burning metal. Alien ships floated ominously overhead, their sleek designs casting shadows over the ruins. Jack moved quickly, sticking to side streets and alleys to avoid detection. His first stop was a warehouse near the docks, where a group of dock workers had set up a makeshift barricade. Armed with pipes, crowbars, and a few scavenged guns, they looked like they were ready to fight to the death. Their leader, a burly man named Greg, eyed Jack suspiciously when he approached. Who are you? Greg demanded. My name's Jack, he replied calmly. I'm here to help. There's a plan to hit back against the aliens, a way to disable their weapons. But we need everyone working together. Greg hesitated, glancing at the others behind him. Why should we trust you? Because if we don't try, we're finished, Jack said. Look around. What do we have to lose? After a long silence, Greg nodded. All right. But if this doesn't work, you're on your own. Jack spent hours moving from group to group, delivering the same message. Some were eager to join the fight, while others were skeptical. But slowly, he began to piece together a network of resistance fighters. Each group promised to share resources and coordinate attacks, buying time for Emily and her team to refine their discovery. By nightfall, Jack returned to the facility, exhausted but hopeful. The resistance was fragile, but it was growing. Above ground, the battle raged on, but below, something new was taking shape. Humanity might not have the strength or the numbers to win outright, but it still had something powerful, determination. And as long as that remained, there was a chance, however slim, that Earth could survive. The resistance was growing, but so were the stakes. Jack Roberts sat in a dimly lit room deep underground, listening to the crackle of radios as messages came in from the scattered groups he had rallied. The plan was risky, too risky, but it was all they had. Emily Parker's discovery about the alien frequency was their only hope. If they could amplify it and broadcast it on a large enough scale, they might disable the invaders' weapons. But getting close enough to one of their ships to gather more data was another challenge entirely. Emily's brother, Ryan, stood nearby, studying a map of the city. A pilot by trade, he had volunteered for the mission without hesitation. Their command ship is here, he said, pointing to a red circle on the map. It's heavily guarded, but if I can get inside its range, I might be able to record the frequency. Jack frowned. Heavily guarded was an understatement. The aliens had surrounded their command ship with smaller vessels, creating a wall of defense that seemed impossible to breach. But Ryan wasn't deterred. I've flown through worse, he said with a confident grin. Besides, we don't have a choice. Laura walked into the room carrying a small device. This is what we'll use to capture the frequency, she explained, handing it to Ryan. Make sure you stay within range long enough for it to work. Once we have the data, we can build the amplifier. Ryan nodded and strapped the device to his belt. Before leaving, he turned to Emily. If I don't make it back, tell Mom I love her. Emily rolled her eyes but couldn't hide the worry in her voice. You'd better come back. I'm not explaining this to Mom." As Ryan prepared to leave, Jack pulled him aside. "Be careful," he said. "We're counting on you." "I know," Ryan replied. Then, with a quick salute, he disappeared into the tunnels leading to the surface. Above ground, the city was eerily quiet. The initial chaos of the invasion had given way to an uneasy stillness. Alien patrols moved methodically through the streets, searching for survivors. Ryan kept to the shadows, slipping between buildings until he reached the edge of the command ship's perimeter. He crouched behind a pile of rubble and studied the scene. Dozens of smaller ships orbited the massive vessel like satellites, their weapons trained outward. Taking a deep breath, Ryan activated his jetpack and shot into the air. His heart pounded as he wove through the maze of ships, narrowly avoiding blasts from alien guns. The device on his belt beeped softly, signaling that it was recording. He pushed forward, closer to the command ship, until finally the beeping stopped. The data was collected. But Ryan wasn't out of danger yet. As he turned to retreat, a squadron of alien fighters closed in, cutting off his escape route. Desperation surged through him as he zigzagged through the sky, dodging laser fire. Just when it seemed like there was no way out, a burst of static filled the air, and several alien ships faltered. Their movements became erratic, giving Ryan just enough time to break free and speed toward safety. Back at the facility, the team cheered when Ryan stumbled through the door, battered but alive. "Did it work?" Laura asked eagerly. Ryan held up the device. "Let's find out." They gathered around as Laura plugged the device into a computer. Data streamed across the screen, confirming that the frequency had been captured successfully. For the first time in days, a glimmer of hope spread through the room. But Jack knew the fight wasn't over. The aliens wouldn't stop until Earth was under their control or destroyed. Still, as he looked around at the determined faces of his team, he felt something he hadn't felt in a long time: confidence. Humanity might be outnumbered and outgunned, but it wasn't beaten. Not yet. The mood in the underground facility was tense but hopeful. The team had finally captured the alien frequency, and Laura worked tirelessly to build the amplifier that could disable their weapons. Jack Roberts paced the room, glancing at the clock every few minutes. Time was slipping away, and they all knew it. Above ground, the invaders continued their relentless assault, pushing deeper into the city with each passing hour. Among the resistance fighters was Alex Carter, a quiet man who had joined the group after losing his family in the initial attack. He rarely spoke, but when he did, his words carried weight. Alex had been one of the first to volunteer for dangerous missions, always putting himself in harm's way to protect others. Jack trusted him, or at least he thought he did. Late one night, as the team prepared to test the prototype amplifier, Alex approached Jack. "We need to talk," he said, his voice low. Jack nodded and followed Alex to a secluded corner of the facility. "What's on your mind?" he asked. Alex hesitated, then sighed. "I don't think this is going to work. Even if we disable their weapons, they'll just keep coming. We're outmatched, Jack. There's no way we can win." "We have to try," Jack replied firmly. "If we give up now, everything we've done will be for nothing." "But what if there's another way?" Alex pressed. "What if we surrender? Maybe they'll show mercy. Maybe they'll let some of us live." Jack stared at him, stunned. "You really believe that?" "I'm not willing to risk everything for a hopeless fight," Alex admitted. "And neither should you." Before Jack could respond, alarms blared throughout the facility. Someone shouted, "We've been compromised." Chaos erupted as everyone scrambled to secure the equipment and prepare for an attack. Jack turned back to Alex, but he was already gone. Moments later, the sound of gunfire echoed from above. Jack raced to the stairs leading to the surface, where a group of fighters was trying to hold off the advancing aliens. The invaders had breached the perimeter, and it was clear someone had betrayed them. As Jack helped fend off the attackers, his mind raced. It had to be Alex. No one else knew about the amplifier or the location of the facility. When the immediate threat was neutralized, Jack confronted Laura. "It was Alex," he said grimly. "He sold us out." Laura's face paled. "Are you sure?" "He disappeared right before the attack," Jack explained, "and he's the only one who knew enough to make a deal with them." Laura clenched her fists, anger flashing in her eyes. "We trusted him." Jack nodded, guilt weighing heavily on him. "I should have seen it coming. I should have." "There's no time for this," Laura interrupted. "We need to move. If they find us again, we're finished." The team quickly packed up what they could and evacuated through a hidden tunnel. As they emerged into the ruins of the city, Jack couldn't shake the feeling of betrayal. Alex had been one of them, or so they thought. Now, because of his actions, countless lives were at risk. They regrouped in an abandoned subway station, setting up makeshift workstations to continue building the amplifier. Despite the setback, morale remained surprisingly high. The fighters were determined to press on, refusing to let Alex's betrayal break their spirit. But Jack couldn't stop thinking about what Alex had said. Was it really hopeless? Could surrender save more lives than resistance? He pushed the thoughts aside. Giving up wasn't an option, not while there was still a chance to fight back. As the team worked through the night, Ryan approached Jack. "You okay?" he asked. Jack forced a smile. "Yeah, just thinking." Ryan nodded knowingly. "We'll get through this. Together." For the first time in hours, Jack allowed himself to believe it. Betrayal had shaken them, but it hadn't broken them. Humanity might be bruised and battered, but it wasn't beaten. Not yet. The abandoned subway station buzzed with activity. The team worked around the clock, assembling the amplifier that could turn the tide of the war. Laura's hands moved quickly as she soldered wires and adjusted settings, her focus unshakable. Jack Roberts paced nearby, glancing at the exits every few minutes. He couldn't shake the feeling that they were running out of time. Ryan stood by a map of the city, pointing to a cluster of alien ships hovering over the central district. "Their command center is here," he said. "If we can get close enough to broadcast the frequency, it might disable their weapons long enough for us to strike back." "It's too risky," Laura argued. "They'll tear you apart before you even get close." "We don't have a choice," Ryan replied firmly. "If we wait any longer, they'll wipe us out completely." Jack stepped forward, his voice steady but firm. "He's right. We've got one shot at this. If we fail, it's over." Laura hesitated, then nodded reluctantly. "Fine, but you're not going alone." Ryan smiled faintly. "I wasn't planning to." Preparations began immediately. Jack gathered a small team of fighters to accompany Ryan on the mission. Among them was Mia Rodriguez, a linguist who had been studying alien communication patterns. Though her skills weren't directly related to the mission, she insisted on joining. "If something goes wrong, I might be able to buy us some time," she said. By dawn, the group was ready. Armed with whatever weapons they could scavenge, they set out into the ruins of the city. The streets were eerily quiet, the only sounds coming from distant explosions and the hum of alien ships overhead. They moved cautiously, sticking to shadows and avoiding patrols. As they approached the central district, the air grew thick with tension. Alien ships loomed above, their sleek designs casting long shadows over the shattered buildings. Ryan led the group through a maze of debris, his eyes scanning for any sign of movement. Suddenly, a patrol appeared around a corner, their weapons trained on the team. "Get down," Jack shouted, diving behind a pile of rubble. The others followed, returning fire as the aliens advanced. Bullets ricocheted off metal, and laser blasts lit up the air. For a moment, it seemed like they were outnumbered and outgunned. Then, Ryan activated the prototype amplifier. A low hum filled the air, growing louder with each passing second. The alien weapons faltered, their movements becoming sluggish and uncoordinated. Seizing the opportunity, Ryan shouted, "Now!" The team surged forward, pushing past the confused aliens and heading straight for the command ship. As they reached its perimeter, Ryan aimed the amplifier directly at the vessel and activated it at full power. The effect was immediate. The ship's engines sputtered, and its weapons systems went dark. But their victory was short-lived. Reinforcements arrived, swarming the area with overwhelming force. Jack and the others fought fiercely, covering Ryan as he adjusted the amplifier to maintain the signal. "We need more time," Ryan yelled. Maya stepped forward, holding up a device that emitted a strange, pulsing sound. To everyone's surprise, the approaching aliens paused, their heads tilting as if listening. "It's working," Mia shouted. "Keep moving." With the aliens momentarily distracted, the team made a break for safety, retreating into the shadows just as the amplifier's power began to fade. Behind them, the command ship roared back to life, but the damage had been done. Dozens of alien vessels floated aimlessly, their systems disrupted. Back at the subway station, the team collapsed in exhaustion. They had survived, but the cost was high. Several fighters hadn't made it back, and the amplifier was badly damaged. Still, they had struck a blow against the invaders, a reminder that humanity wasn't ready to give up. As Jack looked around at the weary faces of his team, he felt a spark of hope. They were battered and bruised, but they were still standing, and as long as they kept fighting, there was a chance, however slim, that Earth could survive. The victory was small, but it mattered. For the first time since the invasion began, humanity had struck a real blow against the aliens. The disruption of the command ship systems had caused chaos in the invaders' ranks, leaving dozens of their vessels disabled and forcing them to retreat temporarily. But Jack Roberts knew it wasn't enough. They had bought themselves time, but not much. The invaders would regroup, repair their ships, and come back stronger. Back at the subway station, the team worked frantically to repair the damaged amplifier. Laura's hands moved quickly as she patched wires and replaced burned-out components. Her face was streaked with dirt and sweat, but her focus never wavered. "We need to make this thing more stable," she muttered to herself. "If we can increase its range, we might be able to disable more ships next time." Jack stood nearby, watching her work. He wanted to help, but he didn't know the first thing about building machines like this. Instead, he focused on keeping morale high among the fighters. Many of them were injured or exhausted, but they refused to give up. "We're still here," he told them. "That means something. Keep pushing." Ryan sat in a corner, cleaning his weapons and checking his gear. Despite the injuries he'd sustained during the mission, he looked ready to fight again. "What's the plan?" he asked Jack. "Do we hit them again while they're still weak?" "We need to wait," Jack replied. "Laura's working on improving the amplifier. Once it's ready, we'll strike where it hurts the most. Their central fleet." Ryan nodded but didn't look satisfied. None of them were. Waiting felt like wasting time, and every second that passed gave the aliens a chance to recover. Meanwhile, Mia Rodriguez studied recordings of the strange sounds she'd used to distract the aliens during the last mission. She replayed them over and over, trying to understand why they had worked. "It's like they were confused," she said aloud, almost as if the sound disrupted their communication. Laura paused her work to listen. "You think you can replicate it?" "I'm trying," Mia admitted, "but I don't fully understand how their language works yet. It's complicated." "Keep at it," Jack encouraged her. Even a few seconds of confusion could save lives. As the hours dragged on, tensions ran high. Supplies were running low, and the constant threat of another attack weighed heavily on everyone. Then, just as hope began to fade, something unexpected happened. A message came through one of the radios, a transmission from an alien species called the Varnuk. Mia translated the garbled words as best she could. "They say they want to talk. They don't agree with the invasion." The room fell silent. Could it be true? Could there be allies among the invaders? Jack exchanged a glance with Laura. "This could change everything," he said quietly. Laura nodded. "If the Varnuk are willing to help us, Maybe we can turn the tide. Ryan stepped forward, his expression skeptical. How do we know this isn't a trap? We don't, Jack admitted. But we have to take the risk. If the Varnock are telling the truth, they might be our only chance. After a tense discussion, the team decided to send a small group to meet with the Varnock under a flag of truce. Jack volunteered to lead the mission, knowing the danger but also aware of what was at stake. Humanity couldn't win this war alone. Not anymore. As they prepared to leave, Laura pulled Jack aside. "Be careful," she said, her voice trembling. "If this goes wrong." "It won't," Jack interrupted, forcing a smile. "We've come too far to lose now." With that, he and the others set out into the ruins of the city, heading toward the coordinates provided by the Varnock. The streets were eerily quiet, the air thick with anticipation. As they approached the meeting point, a group of alien figures emerged from the shadows. Their forms were sleek and insect-like, their eyes glowing faintly in the dim light. Jack took a deep breath. This was it, the moment that would decide Earth's fate. Whether the Varnock were friends or foes, humanity's survival depended on what happened next. The meeting with the Varnock was tense. Jack Roberts and his team stood face to face with the insect-like aliens, their glowing eyes scanning every movement. The air felt heavy, charged with uncertainty. Neither side spoke at first, each waiting for the other to make the first move. Finally, one of the Varnock stepped forward. Its voice came through a translator device, low and mechanical. "We are not your enemy," it said. "This invasion, it is wrong." Jack exchanged a glance with Mia Rodriguez, who nodded slightly. She had been studying their language, and the tone of their message seemed genuine. Still, trust didn't come easily in times like these. "Why should we believe you?" Jack asked, keeping his voice steady. The Varnock hesitated, then replied, "Our leaders were missiled. A rogue faction within the Galactic Council spread lies about your species. They claimed you were beyond redemption, that subjugation was the only answer. But we have seen your resistance, your determination. You fight not just for survival, but for something greater." Jack felt a flicker of hope, though he kept his guard up. "If you're telling the truth, why haven't you done anything to stop this?" "We are few," the Varnock admitted, "and our voices have been silenced. But now we see an opportunity. Together, we can expose the truth to the Council and end this war." Ryan, standing nearby, shifted uneasily. "How do we know this isn't a trick? How do we know you won't turn on us?" The Varnock tilted its head, as if considering the question. "You don't," it admitted. "But ask yourself this. What do you have to lose? Without us, your chances of survival are slim. With us, you may yet prevail." Jack thought carefully before responding. He knew the risks. Allying with the Varnock could be a deadly gamble. But without their help, humanity's options were running out. "What's your plan?" he asked finally. The Varnock explained that they had access to key communication channels within the alien fleet. If they could broadcast evidence of the rogue faction's manipulation to the entire Galactic Council, it might force the invaders to reconsider their stance. However, doing so would require infiltrating the heavily guarded central hub orbiting Earth, a mission that would put everyone involved in grave danger. Laura, listening intently, spoke up. "We'll need time to prepare. And we'll need to coordinate with the resistance fighters still holding ground on Earth." The Varnock nodded. "Time is short. The Council grows impatient. If we act, we must do so quickly." As the meeting ended, Jack and his team returned to the subway station, their minds racing. The Varnock had offered them a lifeline, but it was fragile. One misstep, and everything could fall apart. Laura worked tirelessly to refine the amplifier, knowing it might play a crucial role in disabling the hub's defenses. Ryan volunteered to lead the infiltration team, while Mia focused on decoding more of the Varnock's language to ensure clear communication. Tensions ran high as the hours ticked by. Supplies dwindled, injuries mounted, and the constant threat of another attack loomed over them. Yet, despite the odds, a sense of purpose began to take root. For the first time since the invasion began, there was a glimmer of light, a chance to fight not just for survival, but for justice. On the day of the mission, Jack gathered everyone together. His voice was calm but firm. "This is it," he said. "Everything we've done has led us here. No matter what happens, remember why we're doing this. Not just for ourselves, but for everyone who believed in us." One by one, the team nodded. They knew the risks, but they also knew there was no turning back. As they prepared to leave, Laura pulled Jack aside. Her eyes were filled with worry, but her voice was strong. "Bring them home," she said. "I will," Jack promised. With that, they set out into the ruins of the city, heading toward the final battleground. Above them, the alien ships hovered ominously, unaware of the storm about to break. Humanity's fate rested on what happened next, and for the first time, they weren't alone. The infiltration team moved silently through the shadows, their footsteps muffled by the ruins of what was once a bustling city. Jack Roberts led the group, his heart pounding but his mind sharp. Beside him were Ryan, Mia Rodriguez, and 2 Varnock allies who had volunteered for the mission. The central hub loomed above them, a massive structure floating in orbit, connected to Earth by a towering energy beam that pulsed with an eerie blue light. "This is it," Jack whispered, staring up at the hub. "Once we're inside, there's no turning back." Ryan checked his weapon one last time. "Let's just hope this works." Mia adjusted the translator device strapped to her belt. "If anything goes wrong, I'll try to stall them. Just get the message out." The Varnock nodded in agreement, their glowing eyes reflecting determination. They had risked everything to help humanity, and now they were putting their lives on the line alongside the humans. The first challenge was reaching the base of the energy beam. Alien patrols roamed the area, their movements methodical and precise. Using the cover of darkness, the team slipped past most of them, but one patrol spotted them as they neared the beam. Laser fire erupted, lighting up the night sky. "Take cover," Jack shouted, diving behind a pile of rubble. The others followed, returning fire as the aliens closed in. Ryan activated the amplifier, its hum growing louder as it disrupted the aliens' weapons. Their shots became erratic, giving the team a brief window to escape. "Go," Ryan yelled, covering the retreat. They reached the energy beam and activated the Varnock's transport device. A surge of electricity enveloped them, and within seconds, they were inside the hub. The interior was a maze of corridors and control panels, bathed in cold, artificial light. Alien workers moved about, unaware of the intruders in their midst. "This way," one of the Varnock said, leading them toward the main communication array. Time was running out. Alarms would sound any moment, alerting the entire station to their presence. Jack and Ryan guarded the entrance while Mia and the Varnock worked frantically to access the system. "We're in," Mia announced after several tense minutes. "Now we just need to upload the evidence." As the data began transferring, red lights flashed, and a loud alarm blared through the hub. "They know we're here," Ryan shouted, raising his weapon. Alien guards poured into the corridor, forcing Jack and Ryan to hold them off. The firefight was intense, each shot echoing like thunder in the confined space. Jack's mind raced. How much longer would it take? Could they hold out? "We're almost done," Mia called over the noise. Her hands flew across the controls, ensuring the transmission reached every corner of the Galactic Council. Suddenly, the Varnock let out a sharp hiss. "They're cutting us off. We need to leave now." Jack hesitated, torn between staying to ensure the message went through and retreating to save his team. Then Maya looked up, her face pale but resolute. "It's done. Let's go." The group sprinted toward the exit, dodging blasts and collapsing walls as the hub's defenses activated. The aliens were relentless, but the team fought back with everything they had. Just as they reached the transport device, Ryan stumbled, clutching his side. Blood seeped through his fingers. "I'm fine," he insisted when Jack tried to help him. "Keep moving." With no time to argue, Jack pressed the button, and the world dissolved into light. When they reappeared on Earth, they collapsed in exhaustion, the weight of what they'd done sinking in. The message had been sent. Now, all they could do was wait, and pray the council would listen. The hours that followed felt like an eternity. Jack Roberts sat in the subway station, his body aching and his mind heavy with uncertainty. The infiltration team had returned battered but alive, though Ryan's injury was a grim reminder of the cost of their mission. Laura tended to him, her hand steady as she cleaned and bandaged his wound. "You'll be okay," she said softly, though her voice betrayed her worry. Above ground, the city remained eerily quiet. The invaders hadn't launched another attack. Not yet. It was as if they were waiting, holding their breath just like humanity. Jack paced the room, glancing at the clock every few minutes. Had the message reached the Galactic Council? Would it make a difference? Mia Rodriguez sat nearby, replaying the transmission they had sent. Her face was pale, her eyes distant. "What if it wasn't enough?" she whispered. "What if they don't listen?" "They'll listen," Jack replied firmly, though he wasn't entirely sure himself. "We've done everything we can. Now it's up to them." As dawn broke, the first signs of change came. Alien ships began withdrawing from the skies, their movements slow and hesitant. At first, no one dared to hope. It could have been a trap or a temporary retreat. But then, a new message appeared on the radios. Maya translated it quickly, her voice trembling with disbelief. "They're calling off the invasion," she said. "The council has ordered all forces to stand down." The room erupted into cheers, but Jack stayed silent, his emotions a whirlwind of relief and disbelief. After everything they had endured, the losses, the sacrifices, it was finally over, or at least it seemed that way. Laura hugged him tightly, tears streaming down her face. "We did it," she murmured. "We actually did it." Ryan forced a weak smile from where he lay. "Told you I'd be fine," he joked, earning a laugh from everyone despite the gravity of the moment. Later that day, the Varnock arrived at the subway station, their glowing eyes filled with gratitude. "You have saved not only your world but ours as well," one of them said. "The truth has exposed corruption within the council. Change will come." Jack nodded, still processing everything. "Thank you for standing with us. We couldn't have done this without you." In the weeks that followed, Earth began to heal. The scars of war were deep, but humanity refused to give up. Teams worked tirelessly to rebuild cities, restore ecosystems, and care for the millions who had suffered. Jack and Laura spent long days helping coordinate recovery efforts, finding solace in each other after months of chaos. Ryan recovered slowly, his bravery becoming a symbol of hope for those who had fought alongside him. Emily Parker joined the rebuilding effort, using her skills to design sustainable technologies. Even Maya found purpose in teaching others about alien languages, bridging the gap between humanity and its newfound neighbors. Though the road ahead was long, there was a sense of renewal in the air. Humanity had faced its darkest hour and emerged stronger, not because of superior weapons or technology, but because of resilience, unity, and the courage to fight for what mattered most. One evening, as Jack stood on the rooftop of a partially rebuilt building, he watched the sunset paint the sky in hues of orange and pink. Beside him, Laura took his hand. "It's going to take time," she said quietly, "but we'll get there." Jack nodded, a small smile forming on his lips. For the first time in a long while, he believed it. Earth had been given a second chance, and humanity was determined to make the most of it. Together, they would rise again, not just as survivors, but as stewards of a fragile, beautiful world.